bar.
That extra gear, the first 3 steps.
Huge strides in the performance.
That I might not be the player I am today.
All right, welcome to another episode of Behind the Gear, and today we are sitting with Chad Liley. I'm really excited, actually, Chad. I'm thankful for you to come in today because I think the topic we'll touch on here today, as far as just player agency, player advisorship, all this kind of stuff that goes out when you talk about hockey players getting in a junior and midget and beyond type thing. I think it's a murky pool, and a lot of people have no idea what's going on. So first of all, thanks a lot for coming in today. And I'm excited to kind of dive into it. But before we get into it, first of all, where's home for you?
So I'm originally from London. Just recently moved down to the Oakville area. Just tried to be closer to Toronto and
the hockey mecca.
Yeah, exactly. I got a couple guys. A lot of my guys are down that area. I got a kid playing in the OHL in Barrie, and so it just kind of keeps me central to everybody. I got guys down here in London as well, Ottawa. So kind of in the middle of everything.
Yeah. It's easy to kind of get around and you can catch a lot of hockey there.
Yes,
there's not
lots
really
of games.
any
AAA,
nights
junior,
that you don't have off.
OHL. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then where did you play your minor hockey? Because I know you obviously played, you played high level, but where did you play your minor hockey?
Yeah, so I actually just played small town hockey out in Lucan for basically all the way growing up, and then when I was 18 is kind of when I cracked into junior A. I moved away from home at 17, and I kind of learned the ropes of what these kids are going through now, and I think that's kind of helped me, give them the advice that they need as they're moving away from home, chasing their dreams.
Yeah, and I think you've got a kind of a cool hockey story because you're like every other kid, like I was. Like, you were, doesn't matter. I'm a little bit older, better looking, but no, I'm kidding. But I think we all played. We all kind of try to navigate through it. But who knows what. I ended up having an opportunity to play junior A tier 2 and then playing, NCAA. But you have a really cool story. And I remember when I first met you, I was like, you played club, and like some cool spots. So go through that a little bit. You played your junior A, obviously looking for a scholarship or looking for something. The scholarship maybe doesn't happen the way you thought it would, but then all of a sudden you get an opportunity to go down to the States and play. And kind of what was that like, and how did that all happen?
Yeah, it was a great experience. So, I didn't really get any help in my junior career until I was 20 years old. I hired an advisor down in the Toronto area, and we had a lot of D3 bites, and I ended up going D3 my first 2 years, and I really enjoyed it. I think it was great hockey. I think D3 is really overlooked of what the talent level's like there. But then I decided, I wanted to transfer and go and get the real college experience. So I transferred to the University of Oklahoma, and I played against teams like Penn State at the club level, Club D1, and Arizona State right before they had turned NCAA
Sick
D1.
schools
It's great.
Yeah.
And I got to go down there and play, at those schools, and it's awesome. And, it kind of really opened up my eyes on, how far hockey goes in the States and what it's really trying to become. And, even the ACHA D1 level, there's some teams there that are pretty good. But at the end of the day, I kind of knew when I was transferring that, I was going to mostly just focus on school and keep playing. And then, I always knew that I kind of wanted to be an agent or just stay within the game of hockey I met a lot of great people down there. I learned a lot. The school experience was awesome. You just don't get the experience like that at the regular university. So going down there, it was cool, and it kind of led me to this now.
No, it's cool. Now, when you did transfer out, played your 2 years of D3, what was that process like, kind of transferring out of schools? Because in the States, it's different. In Canada, you kind of leave. Yeah, you may have to, if you're playing athletics, you may have to sit out a year. But in the States, for you to leave, like, what was that process like? Why did you leave, and what were you kind of thinking, or how tough was it to get out of there and move over?
Yeah, I just feel, growing up in London, I'm kind of the city guy, and I was playing at a D3 school in a small town in northern Wisconsin, and, it was fun. The guys there were amazing, but it was just a really small town, really small feel, and I wanted something a little bit bigger and wanted to experience, what real college hockey was like, playing at a big school and just getting that, like I said, that college experience. And I definitely got that going to the University of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a big football school. We weren't really the number one team on campus like we were in Wisconsin, but, I just learned a lot from the experience. I think, when you're transferring, you always want to make sure that, your credits are going to transfer. Are you transferring into, a good spot where you're going to step in and still play and enjoy it? And, there was a lot of things that went into it. I wanted something a little bit bigger, and, that's definitely why I ended up moving on.
No, it's cool. How sick was it when you went down to play like Penn State? Because I mean, you were in like kind of football mecca or football hub. Like those schools are ridiculous, right? And even Arizona. Like, would you guys fly in? Would you guys bus in or?
So actually, when I was playing there, so when I went to Oklahoma, Penn State was in their first year of NCAA D1.
Okay, but they were independent, I think, or something, right?
Yeah, they were independent to start, just like Arizona State is.
So for those who don't know, Penn State was always club up until that point, and then now they're a legit D1 program with tons of cash, right? Tons of money behind them.
Tons of money.
So at that time, they were just kind of transitioning then. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and it was great. Like, while I was playing ACHA D1, I still got to play Huntsville, your former team. I played 4 D1 games, NCAA D1 games when I was there. So we went and played Penn State. Yeah. It was fun because when we played at Penn, it was their last 2 games in their old barn before they moved into the Pagula. So, it was rocking and it was a lot of fun there. And, a lot of D1 talent. I remember Jake Gardner's brother. He was just drafted the NHL. We played him. And then we went to Huntsville and got to play 2 games against them. That was a great experience as well. And, a lot of guys that I played with at OU, we had a kid transfer in from Penn State, D1. We had kids coming in from the NA, a lot of BCHL kids. I think the difference between ACHA D1 and D3 are actually very similar. Yeah. I think it's just more of the big state schools are kind of where your ACHA D1 schools are coming from.
Okay, gotcha, yeah.
And so, it's ACHA D1 is more so built up of a lot of kids that could have went D1 that were going to go D3 and just didn't really want to go to that small D3 school. And
want to see the bigger school. Yeah. Okay.
So, we had great team there. I played with a lot of good players, and our coach is from Montreal when I was at Oklahoma, and he played in the Central League down there. So, it was a lot of fun. And
how were you guys treated? Like gear, everything. You guys fly to some games?
We had a sleeper bus.
Sweet.
So the way that we were treated down there was awesome. Just like
probably better than some D1 schools.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like we took a sleeper bus. We had 2 sets of helmets, 3-4 sets of gloves, jerseys, Nike, everything. Yeah. They just treated you really well.
Do you guys just say thank you football every time you put yourself on?
Yeah, everything that the football team had, we had. So it was
that's awesome. But, that's one of the perks of being in a school, though, like a big sport like that, right? Because they help.
They were sponsored.
Yeah, it's awesome.
School sponsored. Yeah. So, and like I had one of my really good buddies from there was on the football team. He was drafted at Green Bay, and you just kind of get to know people from other sports and stuff at a big school like that.
That's awesome, man. But sometimes like this is cool because sometimes in Canada, in London, Ontario, what do we think? D1, Michigan State, all these big schools, right? Or D3, which a lot of us know about D3, obviously, but not a lot of people talk about, that second piece basically, which is a big piece and tons of funding. There's scholarship money. There's academic money there. There's opportunity to go down and still play at a good level. And, kind of hopefully for some guys move on and do what you're doing, stay in hockey. Out of that team, let's say at OU, were there some guys that end up going on to play in the Central League or maybe the East Coast League or different things like that?
Yeah. So actually we had 2 kids that ended up, my first year we had 2 kids go straight to Tulsa, who's now in the Coast. Yeah. We had one kid, our goalie was actually called up to the Oklahoma City Barons in the A, just like to practice them for a full month. We had another kid, 2 or 3 other kids go to Europe, I think.
Cool.
So, I mean, like it was definitely a good feeder system. And like all the kids that we picked up, like when we were there, I think the lowest we were ranked was 6th in the country. My senior year, we were 2nd in the country, right behind Arizona State. Yeah. That year we had lost in the national championship semifinals in overtime, and Arizona State won it that year, and then they went D1. So everybody asks, if we would have won it that year, would we have went D1? Because it seems just like the powerhouses in that league are the ones that are transferring. And at the end of the day, they've got the rule Title IX, which all these NCAA D1 schools, they need to have the same amount of women program D1 as men's D1 programs. Yeah. And so everything needs to kind of match up there. But we definitely had guys move on to the next level. Like I said, we had kids coming in from the BCHL, the USHL, like our goalie played in the USHL. We had a kid play at St. Cloud, which is an incredible program.
Yeah, legit, for sure.
Bunch of D3 transfers from like Oswego and things like that. Yeah. We had 2 kids coming off of an NA national championship as well. So like we had great group of guys there. Everybody could have went and played D3 on that team. And
Yeah.
it's more so, like I said, just a lot of kids from down south that would rather stay down south.
Yeah.
You know?
No, for sure.
It was a blast.
And even too, going to a big football school like that, and for people up here in Canada, like, you know, you go to a game at Western, you know, with Western pumping a team 62-2.
Yeah.
Down there, it's insane, man.
It's a religion.
It's crazy.
90,000 people.
And their
at
high
games.
schools are better than Western's facilities here. Like, it's unbelievable, right?
25,000 at a Texas high school game.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? So I mean, getting that experience. I mean, I lived in the States for a bunch of years too, and I loved it. Like, it's awesome. It's, you know, I lived in the southern states. It's friendly. It was great, and yeah, it's cool. It's different. It's just different, right?
I feel college athletics in the U.S. is just on another level than it is in Canada. I think that's more so to do because of the athletic scholarships that come with it in the States. But I also think the money that goes into athletics 100%. In the States is just 100%. Incredible.
Even at the minor hockey, like, I think a lot of parents down there, associations, everything, they treat sport as a business.
Yes,
and I'm not saying that's right or wrong. Up here, we treat sport as an activity.
Yep.
You play hockey because you're Canadian, because you do it for the flag.
Yep.
Like, no. Well, you
trying
do
to make a living down there.
Yeah, and down there, like, they're already thinking at 6, 7, 8 years old, scholarships, or maybe my kid plays
in the
whatever.
league.
Yeah, right. Like, so it's a way different mentality down there. You pull into a rink or a ball diamond, there's nice vehicles in those parking lots.
Absolutely.
There's people that are leveraging their house. They may not have any
100%.
money, but they're leveraging everything to make sure their kid can get a new bat or get a new ball or get whatever. Right? It's different, man. And here, you know, you almost get shunned if you do too much, or if you're training too much, or if you're
too involved, or
it's you know. So I think there's a fine line there. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I think it's too bad. It's unfortunate, because I think, you know, if the universities treated it more like a business and try to, like, get more fans in the seats, try to market it more, try to get more interaction, have tailgates, all that stuff, I think that you could build a bit more of a brand up here that,
couldn't agree more.
You know, that would work. And then now, because how nice would it be if, you know, you have a daughter or son in 10, 15 years, 20 years, they can get a scholarship, a full scholarship to Western or to Concordia or wherever it is, right? And unfortunately, it's just not there, you know. So,
and I think, you know, it's, you know, I also just feel like even, you know, playing down in the States, I played with a lot of kids from California or from Iowa or Texas or whatever, and they're moving all over the place at the age of, you know, 12 years old, 13 years old, just to play high-end AAA hockey. You know, kids down here in Canada, they're moving away from home at 16. So, you know, I just feel like anywhere in Canada you can play at a high level. I feel like in the States, you need to go to certain programs, and that's why I think everybody's dumping so much money. Everybody's trying to get to this program or that program. And, you know, obviously I think the U.S. has done an incredible job with just growing the game down there. And, you know, kids that I played with, like I said, from California, from Florida, from all over the place, you know, Texas. And, you know, it's a lot of fun to see. And like I said, I played with a lot of great players down there. And it's been great.
You bring up a really good point, though, as far as done a good job of growing the game. And when you have these kids that are moving from Oklahoma to play in Atlanta with the best, you know, now you're putting the best with the best. It's like their national program.
Yep.
They're putting the best kids that they think are let's say out of the top 40. They're putting the top 20 on the U16, top 20 on the youth, you know, 18 team. They get to play and train and skate with the best of the
players
best,
in the world,
right?
in the country, sir.
Right. And that's unbelievable. You know what I mean? And in Canada, I know, you know, Hockey Canada's version of that is, well, we'd rather have 200 kids come to a week-long camp and then hopefully go develop in their junior teams. Well, we know that is great, and we do have some high-end kids, don't get me wrong. But are they getting developed properly? Are they, you know, who knows, right? And
no, I agree.
Depending on where they play, I mean, there could be zero development. Could be just playing games and practicing, and you know, who knows what happens, right? But they have done a really good job of growing the game, and they've grown it in pockets like in the southern states. There's way more kids playing down there. There's way more opportunity down there, you know?
And like the way that they're doing it is like they're cutting the ice in half. They're doing small area games, like, you know, for Tyke, we're playing on full ice. You know, I remember I used to ref back in the day, and, you know, you've got kids that are, you know, can barely walk, but they're out there playing on full ice, where in the States, they'll have 3 games going on one pad.
100%.
And
so I'm sure you're aware of this, but Hockey Canada just came down with this, right?
Yeah.
So they've been doing it for years in the States. Yeah. For years. And then when it went down, man, parents lost their minds. It was unbelievable. I don't know if you saw any of the news footage or something.
Well, they just don't understand.
It was unbelievable
what it does for the players.
But my thing with it was like, okay, well, my kids are young, so for them it doesn't matter. I love it. I think it's great.
Yep.
I think put it to scale. It's way like, and people talk about tennis. You don't get a kid to serve off the baseline in tennis. Basketball. You know, any parents that bitch about Tyke, no problem. Give your kid, 7-year-old, a proper basketball and a 10-foot net.
Yep.
See how much fun he has.
Yep.
He's going to hate basketball.
Yep.
Give him a 6 foot net or 5 foot net and a smaller ball. He'll have a blast,
Yes.
man. So it's just like, what do you want to do? You want them to have fun and develop, or do you want them to play like we did back in the day? Which, hey, by the way, like, I used to drive around in cars that people smoked in the car with the windows up. Do that now. Like, you lose your kids, you lose your car, you lose your house, you lose your job. Like, things have changed, man. Right. Yeah. So it's okay. Like, and I think this is for the better. I agree. I think it's such a good thing development wise. And I think we probably won't see it until 4, 5, 6, 10 years down the road when these young kids that are 5, 6, 7 now are 15, 16, 17, and see if it did help. And if it did, develop as they kind of went through,
Yeah. And I just feel like, they have so many different development leagues now down in the States as well. And I think Canada does too. They do a great job down here. I have a ton of kids that I work for that I send through the junior B rankings up through junior A, placing them in different leagues. And, I've learned while doing this job that, obviously certain leagues get better exposure than others for trying to get to that next level. And, when it comes to, just young players, I think getting back to the development standpoint, you want the kids to touch the puck. It's the only time they're having fun. Just going out there skating, half the time their feet hurt, or you're playing on big ice. It's too much for these kids, and I feel having the small ice and just continuing to, help these kids develop and work on their game, and obviously at the end of the day have fun with it. I think that's what they're doing a really good job with in the States, and I think Canada, can obviously pull a few things from that, but I also think that a lot of countries are pulling a lot from Canada.
Oh, 100%. For sure. No, definitely. And I think there's a lot of good things going on here in Canada, don't get me wrong. And I think this is one thing that'll help once, now, your kids will have no idea. Yeah. We always played on thirds. Yep. That's how we did it. That's how my kids are going to do it, right? And I think once it changes, it'll be fine. Yep. And I think we are getting a lot better just with coaching and coaching clinics and all that kind of stuff. I think it is getting better for sure. And I think in Canada, a lot of the parents, the young parents right now, you see it, the younger parents that have like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds, they're intense.
Yes.
They are intense. Like, they want their kids to do extra. They want they understand it. Like, they get it. Right. And my thing is, I want my kids to play multiple sports, have fun, be athletic, be good people, all that kind of stuff. But if they love something and they're really, really into it at 8, 9, 10, I'll try to open doors for them. I'll try to get them a better bike if they're really good at mountain biking or whatever it is. You know what I mean? I want them to succeed in whatever they want to do. But I think nowadays more parents are doing that, right? Where back in the day, like, I probably have to go buy a couple of bikes or off the side of the street and put them together for myself, and which isn't a bad thing, but just different, So kind of moving forward on this. So then, you said I would love to stay in hockey, kind of when I'm done my degree and stuff. I think I met you right when you were just finishing up. You kind of were in not no man's land, but you're like, maybe I'll get into skill development. Maybe I'll do, and you always kind of had that idea that you wanted to get in and be an agent or become an advisor. Right. So number one thing I want to ask is, because this is a murky 2 titles, but an advisor and an agent. Yep. So you're in the field. I kind of get it. But I know a lot of parents are like, that's the same thing for a lot of parents. Right? What is the difference between an advisor and an agent?
Well, I think
you can't take an hour to do this. Yeah, no, I'm kidding.
So I definitely think there are a lot of similarities.
Yeah, for sure.
Just from an advisor standpoint, though, you mostly just work with kids that are pursuing the collegiate level. I mean, I do have a kid right now playing in Barrie in the OHL, but for the most part, I focus on the school route and helping kids get down to NCAA or CIS if they want to stay here in Canada. I just feel, when it comes to having the advisor, NCAA rules and regulations states that you must, pay your advisor. They must be compensated for their work for you. Where more so as an agent, an NHL agent, OHL agent, they're going to get paid when a kid signs an NHL deal. And obviously I'd love to eventually become an agent. That's my end goal. I don't want to just be a college advisor for the rest of my life, but I've definitely learned a lot throughout this process. I'm going into year 6, so it's been a while.
Yeah.
And, like I said, I've learned a lot, and I've got a great mentor who is an NHL agent, and he helps me with a lot. Any questions that I might have, I go to him, and I just feel when it comes to being an advisor, you just try to be there for the players as much as possible. You want to give them the best advice when it comes to what leagues, pull the most kids NCAA. Where are they going to develop the most? Where are they practicing the most? I help out with SAT prep and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And, getting kids signed up with the NCAA Eligibility Center. But also at the same time, when it comes to the OHL, I can still work with kids that are pushing for the O. Yeah. I think it all comes down to the player. If you're a player who might not be that superstar kid at the age of 16, you might not want to be a small fish in a big pond, and, with me, like I said, I have one kid playing in the O right now. That kid, gets a lot of attention from me when it comes to the OHL.
Sure.
Right now, I just feel agents are going to deal with a lot more contracts. Your advisors are more so going to line you up with camp opportunities and more so just guide you through the eligibility process.
Yeah. The way I see it is very similar. I think, because I'll get the question a lot of times, like, I really want to get an agent.
Yep.
None of these agents are really calling me. This one agency that, maybe, and I look at agents as like, you got your A agents, which
Yep.
are your org groups,
Yep.
your Newports,
Yep.
your big guys, right? And then you got your B agencies and your C agencies. And your C agencies, no GM's going to pick up the phone for them.
Yep.
A lot of scuzz following those guys around. And some of these young kids are like, so-and-so on a C agency wants to represent me.
Yep.
Don't do it. Like
Yep.
that's worse than anything, right?
Yep.
Well, yeah, but this advisor is I have to pay for it.
Yep.
Yeah, but if you're like, the advisors are going to go in the trenches for you. They're going to call the junior B teams, the juniors,
Yep.
the junior A teams, the college teams, all this stuff. Like they're going to make those calls. Unless you're a dad who wants to sit on the phone every night, calling GMs and calling coaches, trying to get your kid a tryout. And I've seen it firsthand with you and other advisors. I know I work, quite a bit with you. And I always tell parents, like, vet these guys, whether it's an agent or it's an advisor, go meet with them.
Yep.
See what you feel like after. If you don't feel comfortable with it, then don't take them. It's just like going to buy a car or you dealing with a sales rep. It doesn't matter what it is, right? I think there's a tremendous amount of value, especially like you said, if you got a superstar kid who's probably going to be a first, second, third rounder in the O or in the Q or in the dub, it doesn't really matter.
Yep.
You're probably going to want an agent.
Yep.
They're going to represent them and hopefully they get to the NHL that way.
Yep.
But man, you've seen it. There's so many ways to the NHL.
Yes.
Right? So for some of these kids that maybe aren't blooming yet at 16, I mean, that's young, 15, 16, aren't ready.
Yep.
An advisor can help them get to that junior B team and then that junior A tier 2, then maybe to the USHL or the BCJ or whatever it is and navigate through. And I mean, you've got some clients that are pretty cool that are, getting scholarships now and man, all of a sudden they're on some scouts and some NHL scout radars and, which is just kind of cool.
Yeah.
Right?
It's rewarding to see things starting to pay off down the road now. I've got some kids, I had 2 kids commit to Western Michigan this year and they both played major midget last year.
Yeah.
I had a kid, he was a backup goalie playing junior B till he was 19. I got him 1 year in the OJ and he committed D1. I had a kid at Arizona State right now, which, he's loving.
For sure.
So, it's fun. I've been in touch with NHL Central Scouting about, a player of mine who was in his draft year this year, who had a great year. And, you just try to work your way, work your way up as far as you can and just try to get that, exposure to yourself as well. Like I'm trying to get my name out there as much as possible. And I think the best way to do that is just by putting in good work for the clients that you have.
Because word of mouth is going to be the best, right?
Yeah. And they see that, well, Johnny moved on and how did he move on?
Yeah.
And so, things like I said are really starting to pick up and I've taken a lot of kids, like you said, who were late bloomers, maybe 2-3 years past their draft year that are just kind of starting to catch their game now and they're really starting to take off. And I think that I've done a good job of finding those late bloomers, kind of the guys that were overlooked or passed up. And I mean, it's just, you just try to stick with it. I mean, it's been a process for a long time. There were times where I wasn't getting too many calls back on players, but over time now, I've got schools reaching out to me all the time about what my roster is looking like. And, obviously my client roster that I work with now is a lot bigger than what it was. And the players that I'm working for now are all high end.
The other thing too, though, is, you place a couple good kids in the OJ. So in junior A tier 2 or junior B, and all of a sudden that coach like, this kid's legit. He's a good kid. Like Chad said, he's a good player. He's got good marks. Well, next time you call him, like, you got another one like that? Like, I think I do. I'll take him. And then you start building up that kind of that whole reputation. Now, going back, because you're basically starting your own business from scratch for the most part. How hard was that right at the beginning? Like the first 6 months to a year, 2 years?
I'm going to say it was 2 years.
Yeah,
it
probably
was
at least, right?
Yeah. Just obviously building up, clientele, trying to build up the contacts and things like that. And, just getting my name out there. And, now, like I said, I've got kids that I work for that are from Dallas. I've got a kid from Oklahoma. I got a kid from Boston. I've got 2 brothers from San Jose, California.
Yeah.
So like my client roster is definitely starting to grow, and I'm, trying to cover all of North America now. I've got a couple kids that could end up in the USHL this year. Had a couple NA draft picks. I'm working on getting some guys out to BC. And then I got a couple kids that are stepping into D1 and D3 this year as well. So it definitely took a long time to build up, word of mouth, just, what I'm all about. And I think once you establish your clientele, you want to keep adding elite players, and I think that really helps with growing your business. Because, like you said, when you move good players onto a team, they're going to call you back the next year and the year after that. And you just, you've got assignments due every week. I'll tell you that right now. Right. You got to get this kid signed here, and you got to get this kid traded here. And there's a lot that goes into it, a lot of time management. But I just feel if, something that you're really passionate about, it was pretty easy for me to stick with it.
Yeah. No, it's cool. And like, it's starting anything, right? It takes time.
Yep.
And obviously you're in the trenches. How many phone calls did you make in that first year though, just to like D1 coaches, D3 coaches, junior coaches, like, and how many times were this like honestly just ignore button, ignore button. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. Cause now a lot of guys that I deal with on a regular basis, some of them are the guys that, didn't really want to hear what I had to say earlier. And that's totally fine. Cause to be honest with you, my clientele earlier on might not have been what it is now.
Yeah.
But now, I feel like they've seen me put in the work over the last couple of years. Like I've been calling these guys now for 6 years. So they know that I've been hard at it. And
if they don't pick up, you're going to call them again anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. I just feel I've learned to be persistent, and I feel that's the only way to get it done. And, that's one thing that I am. I just stay on it, and I know that, these guys are getting my calls and they're getting my emails and they're getting the videos that I'm sending of my players. And, at the end of the day, I hold my players to a really high standard. And I tell my guys, at the end of the day, not just me, but any advisor, any agent can line you up with any opportunity. But if you don't go out there and take care of your business, there's not much we can do.
Yeah.
So, but there was a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, and you're still always reaching out. There's coaches every year that are getting replaced. And so you got to build new relationships and contacts with guys. But, it's just been so much fun to see where I was, 6 years ago to where it is now. And, obviously I work with over 35 kids now. So things are starting to turn.
No, it's great, man.
Direction.
Now let's say I'm a parent coming up, I've got a 14, 15-year-old kid who I know is not going to be a top 3. He's going to be maybe a college guy down the road. Hopefully that's what I hope. He loves the game, works hard. He's small, whatever. If I'm looking at an advisor, what's the kind of that sweet spot number that an advisor should have? So if I chat with you and you're like, I got 35, I'm like, okay, that's not bad. Like that's because there's one guy, because you're one guy. Most of them are. Some of them have outfits, but for the most part they are. What would you say is a kind of a manageable number for one guy or 2 guys to kind of have? So if I'm looking at this, I'm like, I don't want my kid to be one of 100.
No, absolutely. So, that's counting the players that
they're already kind of moving on, right? Yeah.
So players that I actually work for is probably around like the 28 number. Mm-hmm. I think like the max that I would probably take on by myself would probably be about 45.
Yeah.
I feel I have a lot of kids right now that are in that AAA to junior B bubble, right? And so you have those kids there. Then you have your guys that are playing junior A that might be, in their rookie year that, going to have their up and down season. Then you got some guys that are on the brink of, they're ready to commit right now. So I feel, and then you there's ways to break it up. Like you could work with 03s on the Monday, and then you work with 02s on the Tuesday. I mostly just hit it all at once. Whatever I got to do, I just go after it.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, like June 1st was the opening day to start signing kids at the junior level.
Okay.
And, by July 3rd, I had over 22 kids placed for this upcoming season.
That's awesome. So like that right there, that's a crunch time for you, obviously. But once they're placed, then it's like, okay, now any questions you have, fire away. But at the end of the day, okay, now you know where you're playing next year. So it's a little less stress on you, obviously. And then you can deal with other things within the business.
I honestly try to get almost all my players signed before the month of August.
Yeah.
I want my guys going into camp, knowing where they are. I feel it's important to get these kids signed in the summer. That way, if a kid is trying to make a junior A team, we're not going to camp and unfortunately we don't make it and we're back playing where we were before. We want to be moving up every single year. And, obviously we track each kid's development. Does he need another year where he is? Is he ready to move on?
Sure.
And I just, every player's different. I try to tell my guys all the time, each player is on their own path to success, their own timeline to success. So you can't compare yourself to this kid just because he committed as a 17-year-old doesn't mean you're going to commit as a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
Everybody knows stepping into junior that you have up until you're 20 years old to reach your end goal. And it's up to that player, in his progression over his junior career and how early he's going to get that offer.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense for sure. And I know a lot, like if anyone's listening to this from Canada, obviously there's be a lot of Canadians listening to it, but we're talking a lot about the US, right? As far as the NAHA, so the North American Hockey League, Junior Hockey League, the USHL, and you end up placing a lot of kids in some prep schools down there, some junior leagues down there. And I'm sure a lot of parents are like, why? Like the junior B loop here is great. And the junior A tier 2 loop is great. 100% agree with all that. But I'm going to assume, and I'll kind of let you answer this, but you're taking a lot of these kids and bringing them down into the hub of where these schools are going to be looking, rather than waiting for one or two schools to come up to St. Thomas, Ontario to watch a game on a Sunday afternoon, right?
Exactly. I just feel getting these kids down there in the area. I've got a kid in 03 who played junior nights here in London. He's going down to Colorado this year, Josh Curtin. I think that's important. He's going to go and hit up, I think, 8 USHL tournaments that they have hosted like in USHL arenas. They got the NAPHL Showcase, which is hosted in Blaine, Minnesota, where it's the same weekend as the NA Showcase. The NA had 154 D1 commits this year.
That's crazy. That's insane. So
getting guys just down there in the area. I got some kids heading down to the NCDC League down in Boston as well. And you just look at the location there, you're surrounded by all the Ivy League schools, all the Hockey East schools, and, schools can get out and drive 40 minutes down the road and they're there watching you. So I think location has something to do with it. I know some teams down here in the area might not like that, but, I try to do what's best for my guys and just put them in the best situation to get the exposure and then obviously get the opportunity as well.
Yeah. And I love the junior B loop here. I think it's a good opportunity for kids to develop and play. I put it more on the owners of the teams or the GMs or the coaches, but why are there not more scouts here? Back in the day when I went to school, this league was heavily scouted. There was tons of scholarships out of this league, and then it kind of dried up for a little bit. And I blame the parents and the older, like the GMs and that aren't promoting enough or not calling schools or getting schools out, And I think that's, if we want to get this, the leagues in this area flourishing again, I think that's part of the problem. That's part of what needs to get done, right? And I know it's way easier said than done, sitting here at a table with two microphones talking about it, but it's something that I think, unfortunately, for a lot of these young kids, they're kind of handcuffed. They play here at 17, 18, no bites, no looks, no nothing. A guy just got 110 points and get a little sniff, and you're like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's kids getting 30 points in the NAHA League and signing full D1 commits.
Exactly. I've been on both ends of it where you're pumped, and then there's other times where you're frustrated, and I don't want to really put the blame on anybody. I just feel at the end of the day, as a collective group, you need to have people reaching out to these schools and getting them down. And I definitely think, not just from an advisor, but if you did have a GM or a head coach say, hey, like, I've got this kid, he's 16, 17 years old. He just put up 60 points. Like, you got to come down and check this kid out. When schools want to hear from the coach is the one that sees him in practice every day. They're the one that sees him in the room with their teammates. And, is he a crunch time player? And they want to know that stuff heading down to watch the kid. Yeah. I had Western Michigan come down to watch a kid this year in the Junior B League, and they were blown away by just the fact that how much the kid was playing at such a young age. He's so young, but yet he's playing 20 minutes a night. They like that. And then obviously, the coach might not have called him, but he talked to the coach afterwards, and the coach obviously had great things to say about the player, and that obviously ended up leading to a D1 commit. So, I definitely think, you look at other teams around the OJHL, like I think Oakville Blades is a great organization to talk about. I mean, they had 10 plus D1 commits this year. Their coach picks up the phone and calls guys all
someone's
the time.
doing some work there. If we go back to the Western Michigan commit out of the Junior B Loop here, though, how'd that Western Michigan coach, scout, bird dog get up here?
So, I've It was funny. I actually had a kid commit to Western Michigan out of the OJ about 2 months earlier. So I'd been talking to him, and we were down watching a game one day together, and I just said, "Hey, I've got this kid down here in London, who's playing for Kamoka, and he's just very high end talent, and he's an OHL draft pick, and obviously Ryan McAllister, and they just said, what type of player would you compare him to? And I said, I'd kind of compare him to maybe a Clayton Keller type of guy or Patty Kane type of offensive skill set. And, obviously he liked the Clayton Keller comparison. So he said, okay, well, I got to get down to check him out. So I sent him some schedule work, and, I let Kamoka know, hey, Western's going to be coming down. And so they came down to watch him against Chatham, and he had a great game. He actually had 2 assists and a 4-2 or a 4-4 comeback tie on the road. And then they ended up coming down 2 days later to watch him play at home against London. And so, it was 2 games. That's all it took.
Yeah.
2 games. And, it's funny because I feel sometimes in the OHL, these kids are getting looked at for, a year or 2 before they might jump in, where, Western, they came down, they saw this kid, they saw what they liked, and they offered him right away. And now, they've been a part of helping him move on to the BCHL. And, now we're starting to work on just getting ready to make that jump into college here. But yeah, I mean, I just reached out to them and just, sent them some film. I sent them some stats and all that type of stuff, player profile. And then, any questions, I connected them. They had a call set up with Ryan, and, within just a couple of weeks after they saw Ryan, the deal was done.
And this is the thing, like, some parents are maybe pissed off, or hell, that should have been my kid, or whatever, right? But if you're not going to make the initiative to have someone, you be advisor, C advisor, doesn't matter, make those calls. That doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't.
If someone's not in that corner rooting for them. Now, that could be dad. If you want to be the dad that does that, that's fine. You're obviously going to be labeled a little bit crazy and over the top. But now you get an advisor, and man, all of a sudden there are eyeballs watching your son play. And if he's not good enough, he's not going to get a scholarship. Doesn't matter if you have a wicked advisor who,
it all comes down to
maybe he'll go for a year and then never play again and quit. Who knows, right? But man, if you don't get those eyes looking at you, there's no commit there. There's no opportunity there. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, if you go to a place like Oakville, maybe you don't need an advisor because you're a real good player. You go there and there's already schools coming in because your coach is doing the work for you. But if you're a small town kid or not too sure to navigate, mom and dad were basketball players, never really played hockey. They have no idea how this whole thing works because it is a big machine that's a mess sometimes, right? Then I think an advisor, an agent, whatever, but especially an advisor for those kids. Right now, I'm kind of addressing more like me or you when we were kids playing.
Absolutely.
Not a high-end guy, needed some help, needed some navigation. But having someone that's in that corner, making calls for you, saying, hey, this kid's actually legit. He's a good kid, good student. Right now he's playing a ton at 16 or 17. I think you should come look at him. And I know that you've done this a bunch for kids where school, and sometimes they flopped. Sometimes the schools come in, you brought him in, you look like an ass because the school comes in, kid plays like crap. And school's like, what? And you go down and give this kid a tongue lashing because, man, you knew it was not at stake.
They knew they were coming.
Right. So you prep your guys, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Right.
And that's why I, going back to what I said before, at the end of the day, the kids have to perform. And, obviously that's happened quite a bit where, we might have an off game when there's a school in the stands. And sometimes, I always tell kids as well, like you could be leading the league in points. And if a school comes down to watch you, all they care about is the eye test. They don't care about the points. What they see is what they're going to go off of. And, if they don't like what they see, they're just going to move on to the next one because there's tons of kids out there that are chasing the same dream that these kids are. I always tell my guys, you're not just playing against the team you're playing against on a Friday night. You're playing against every kid in North America that's chasing the same goal that you are. And then, when it just comes to being an advisor, like I see a lot of families, they're dropping $5-6 grand on, summer training and stuff like that. And they're doing all this stuff. I'm just a one-time fee that I charge, right? And then and then I work with them until I've moved them on, and I just try to navigate them throughout the junior process. I feel, everybody wants to play junior A. I always tell my guys, we don't want to just play junior A to tell people we're playing junior A. We want to go somewhere where we're going to play. So if that means you need to go back to junior B, and play 25 minutes a night, then let's do that because that's going to set you up to end up in an even better junior league. With a program like Oakville, you might need an advisor to get into a program in Oakville or at least be that high end guy. And, I've got a kid going to Oakville this upcoming season. We're really excited about that opportunity. And over the years, you find what programs are, the elite ones of moving players on. And at the end of the day, that's what my business is to help these kids get down to school. So,
well, that's good. And you touched on something that I wanted to ask you as well. So if a parent's looking at this and they're, like, again, I said, I'm a dad, I got a 14-year-old kid. I think he's good. I think he works his tail off. I know I'm athletic. I know he's going to be a late bloomer. Yep. He's just not going to be there at 16, 17. But let's say fast forward 15, 16, he's still working his tail off, loves the game. Now I want to search out an advisor. Yep. So number one thing, what would I be looking at price tag wise? Just a kind of ballpark on what you've seen on the low end to the high end of what an advisor would cost. Yeah,
I think the low end is probably around $2,500. Some guys, it's $2,500 every year.
Okay.
I'm around like $3,850 one-time fee though. So
that could be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah, I worked with kids for 5 years off of that one-time fee. So, some kids it's a 1 year thing. I had a kid, a goaltender. Like I usually don't pick up players in the month of August because I want to focus on any leftover player that isn't signed.
That you already have.
Yeah. I'm focused on that. So I ended up picking up a goalie last year. He called me August 2nd. Hey, I want to work with you. You just committed my goalie partner from prep school D1 and I heard great things. So I want to work with you. And I said, oh, well, I don't really pick up kids in the month of August. He's like, oh no, I don't need you to place me in junior. I've already got a place. I just got traded to Prince George in BC and the kid's from Chatham.
Okay.
So I said, okay, awesome. Let's get it done then. And so I met with him once. I met his mom. He skated with me and then he took off to BC. And the next time I saw him, he was committed D1. So it was pretty cool. I met the kid once. Obviously we FaceTimed throughout the year while he was away and we talked all the time.
And were you talking to schools on his behalf, obviously,
absolutely,
throughout the year?
All year.
Getting schools out to look at him or check him out?
We were talking to schools all year long. He had a phenomenal 20-year-old year. He went all the way to the BCHL final. But in February, just like that, we had 3 offers coming in the same week. Obviously all great packages. Yeah. And, he's at Arizona State right now and they just had a great year. He kind of had a slow year because their number one goalie was just incredible this year.
Right.
He
so
was
not
up
a
for
lot
the
of
whole,
games. Yeah.
But he should have a lot of opportunity. They're actually heading out to China this month to play a couple KHL teams, first D1 team to go to China.
Because they've got oodles of money.
But they fly to every game.
It's insane though, eh? Like when you think about that, the amount of money that some of these programs have, and they're competing against programs like my old Alabama Huntsville, which they're using duct tape and bubble gum to keep that thing together and pumping, but some of these schools are just Penn State, same thing. Or
it's alumni. They just
totally. It's awesome. Like I think it's great. Yeah. It's really, really good. Okay, so that's good. So roughly, anywhere from $2,500 to probably $4 or $5 grand. I'm assuming, right?
There's some guys that charge $5 grand. Those are probably the older guys that have probably been doing it for a while. Yeah. I don't think my group's super big. Would I like to bring somebody else on and work with me eventually? Absolutely. I'm going to be very picky about that. And, I've got a couple guys in mind. I'll let you know later. Yeah. We'll talk about it. But, I'm obviously super busy. I've got, 30 clients, but then you got to talk with the parents and stuff like that as well. And that's totally fine with me. That comes with the job. But at the end of the day, like I said, I'm always reaching out to schools and junior teams and AAA programs and just trying to place my guys in the best situation where they're going to get that necessary exposure that they need in order to get to the next level. Totally.
Now, if I'm a parent again, so now I know the price. I'm like, I've got 7 advisors here that I'm looking at. How do I differentiate from like A, B, C, D, all the way down that alphabet? Like, so for you as an advisor, kind of being unbiased, so you don't know, you'll be like, well, you call Chad. I mean, that's what you do. No, but if you're my shoes, you're a dad, you're looking like, okay, how do I? It's like looking at a hockey school, looking on. I see the cheapest one. I'm like, maybe I'll go there, but I'm thinking, cheap might not be the best way to route. But how do I know how to differentiate through those?
Well, I think every advisor is going to be different. I actually, sacrifice quite a bit, and I just I do it full time. So I'm not working a 9-to-5 job, coming home and working for these kids for 3 hours and then just shutting it down.
Yeah.
Take weekends off and stuff. That's not how it is. Like I work 24/7, 365. Like
so you're that annoying guy that goes to dinner and you're on your phone all the time.
Yeah. That's why I'm single. So, it's it's just something that, you know, in order for you to grow your business, you're either all in or you're not in at all. It's kind of the way that I've looked at it. And, you know, my dad kind of taught me that way. He owned a company as well. And, you know, it's a lot of work that goes into it. You're managing these kids' careers, you know, and either you take it seriously or you don't. And, you know, I just feel like, you know, my work over the last couple of years has kind of, you know, spoken for itself, I think. And
so as a dad looking at it, like I like this though, because I look at a guy that's full time. This is a job.
Yeah.
So this is how he puts bread on his table. I don't mind people making money. That's fine.
Yeah.
But if you're working at Inco or you're working at, you know, Bell or you're working at a nice cushy, your teacher, and you do this on the side, well, man, you got a lot of other stuff going on.
Yes.
So full time, I think that's great. The other thing that you said that I think is great too is that client list. Yeah. If I know that you're a one-man show and you got 102 clients, I'm like,
exactly.
That's a lot. And how many 06s do you have on my son's age? Well, I have 44.
Yeah. Yeah, I try to spread out my birth years.
Yeah, which is huge, I think, right? And I think parents should know that, because if they're really loaded on that, maybe you've got a boy at that age and you've got all his buddies doing it with you, and all of a sudden now you've got, you know, 14, whatever age that is, right? Then that makes it hard for me as a 15th coming in and being like, okay, well, he's got to place 14 other kids that want the same thing I want. You know, so I think that's obviously super, super important. The other thing, like, let's say you're looking at this, would age be something that you would look at? So what I'm getting at is, you know, if I've got a 65-year-old retired guy that's doing it, or I've got a young guy like you who's pounding the pavement on the phone, knows how to use the internet, you know, is there a difference there, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, the advisor that I had,
and no offense to those older guys do this.
So like the advisor that I had, great guy, super nice guy. But he was older than my parents. So like I could never call him up and, you know, kind of open up to him and really kind of talk with him and just kind of, you know, I guess get everything off my chest. I could never really vent to him, right? Where I feel, you know, like I said, I've got kids from Western Canada. So, you know, on average, I go to bed at 12 o'clock at night just because I've got kids texting me from out there and it's 9 o'clock. So, you know, like my California guys, you know, they're calling me at 10 o'clock at night. So you got to be up for these guys. And so I just feel I'm still young. I'm still fresh out of the game. I can still relate to a lot of these things that these kids are going through. You know, I know, you know, one thing as a young guy, you have to learn, they're not your friends, your clients. They're not your friends. They're your clients. You know what I mean? You're obviously going to have great relationships. You're going to have great relationships because there's going to be times where, you know, I've learned, you know, you be too buddy with a client, and then comes a time where you're going to need to let them know, like, hey, we need to be better. We need to pick it up. They might not take it the right way because they feel, oh, well, I thought we were best friends. You know, I always tell my guys, I'm always going to let you know when you're playing amazing, and I'm going to have to tell you that we need to be better if we need to be better. Because like I said, sometimes you only get one look from a school, and if a school drives 6 hours to come watch you and we lay an egg, they're not going to come out to watch you again, or they're probably not going to hear me out like they heard me out before. For sure. So I think it's a team effort here. You know, one thing that I try to get my guys to do all the time is, you know, cut me film after every weekend. I think sending film out to guys, it's not necessarily going to get you committed, but it's going to get that attraction and get some interest here. And, but yeah, you know, when it comes to just being a younger guy, I think, you know, me personally, I think some of the older GMs and stuff like that might not like the fact that I'm a younger guy. And I think that could be working against me. But I think when it comes to the player standpoint, my guys love me just because I'm a young guy and I can relate, and, you know, we have a good relationship. We can go out for lunch and dinner and it's not super formal. They can be themselves. And, you know, so I think they like it that way. And, you know, as a young guy, I'm hungry. Which I think is huge. The other thing I would advise parents to do is call other people that maybe that I work with, that you represent, or people that maybe have gotten placed, or maybe people that have even left, and be like, yeah, you know what, my son didn't like hockey that much anymore, or you know what, didn't work out with Chad and I, we just didn't get along. Because that's important too. I think if it's a skills coach, an advisor, an agent, whoever it is, you got to have a relationship. Absolutely. There. You got to trust them. You got to, you know, trust what they're saying. You got to be confident that they're going to guide you the right way. And if you don't feel that, then don't go with them. Exactly. You know, switch it up. But I think those are some really key things. You know, the price is obviously one thing, but then obviously how many people you're representing. And then I think the track record is one of those things that kind of speaks a little bit for itself. And one of the first questions I would ask if I was going to play Junior B or Junior A Tier 2 is, hey, how many commits have you had off this team last year? 2. How many over the last couple of years? 4. Well,
not interested. I've had 10 last year. I'm interested. Now we're talking, right? And I think for the same thing as an advisor, how many commits have you had or how many kids have you moved on, you know? One thing I want to talk about too, because this is something that comes up all the time. Like, oh yeah, my son just got a full scholarship to wherever, right? My son just got, how often are kids getting 100% full scholarships covered, books, tuition, room and board, everything?
Oh, not very often.
Like your high end kids, 100%. Like those are kind of no brainers. But you're talking like your Hugheses, your like, and
your NHL draft picks are going to get your
for
fulls.
sure. And even a little bit below that, some of them will. You tear up the USHL, you get a full boat. But realistically, you know, because you've seen it now, you're kind of in there, you're helping negotiate some of these scholarships. And so what's kind of a normal or an average scholarship for a kid?
Well, over the last 2.5 years or so, I've probably done over 450,000 in athletic scholarships.
Yeah.
You know, right now, like my lowest package that I have a kid on is 70.
Okay.
Most of my other guys are on an 80% package. They obviously had great years coming out. And sometimes like a lot of schools, like, you know, they'll tell me, you know, your guy's still 2 years out from coming, but by the time he gets here, if he is worth a full or worth 90, we'll give him the 90.
Yeah.
You know, I try to get my guys committed, get a good package and get the NLI signed as soon as possible.
Yeah.
I think getting them locked in on the contract is important.
And what happens too, a lot of times, just so parents know this, because you touched on, I think it's important, is just because you lock in at an 80% scholarship doesn't mean you're locked in for 4 years at that price.
Nope.
Usually it's not going to go down. Usually it shouldn't, and you can fight that if it does, but you could work your way up.
Absolutely.
If you come in and you light it up in your freshman year, or even coming out of your last year, junior, you light it up. There could be a little bit extra funding there. Maybe your grades got better. You could get more academic money. But there's ways. And even some of the parents are, 80%, that's not that much. When you look at $100,000, $120,000 scholarship, you're only paying $20,000 over 4 years for that.
That's nothing.
No, it's not a lot at all. And for the experience the kids will get, and like, now, not every experience is amazing and awesome, but overall, it's, you know.
Well, you nailed it. And like the other thing too is I always tell parents, your percentage is only good as what the tuition is. So, you know, some schools are, you know, to walk on is $25,000. So you get a 50% package, you're paying 12.5.
Yeah.
You go to a school like Miami, Ohio and walk on, it's $50,000. You get a 50% package, you're paying 25.
Yeah.
So, you know, I always tell people, you know, and this might sound ridiculous, but anything under $20,000 is like good
per
deal
year,
in the States, you know, because it's different down there.
Yeah.
You know, like schooling is expensive in the States. It just is.
Yeah.
4 years is almost $200,000. And so if you want to get the best package possible. You know, I've had kid who was offered a 40% package at X school, and this school was in a really good conference, had all the bells and whistles, but they offered him 40. And the school said to me, they only get 17 full rides, each D1 school, and they split it up between 25 kids. They said, we're not offering your guy 40 because we think he's only worth 40. That's just all we have left on our cap, basically. And so a school in a different conference said, well, we'll offer him 80. And the kid said, we'll go, just because of the cost and how much better it was. And, you know, some kids like the small school feel. They like
for sure
being in class with only 20 kids compared to 200.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, you know, when it comes to full rides, it just doesn't happen very often, you know, and, you know, getting back to upping your package, you know, I had a kid this year from a school. They said, you know, right now his market value, like we think he's an extremely good hockey player, but his statistics weren't really over the top. So we think that we're probably going to bring him in at 25-30, like offer him at 25-30, and he'd come in at 20. And by then we think he'd be over a 70%.
Okay.
So they're basically telling the kid, we'll give you this, you bet on yourself.
And if you're doing well, you're going to get 70%.
70 plus.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's probably what's going to happen here coming up.
Parents are sitting there like, oh shit, just bite their nails. Oh, I bet.
I think it really just lit a fire under the kid.
Yeah,
you know,
for
saying,
sure.
you know what, if I just go that extra mile here, I'm right there.
Yeah.
You know, and this kid just had an incredible playoff run and was probably one of the best players on his team. So
that's awesome.
You know, I just feel, you know, and then I've had some other guys that, you know, might start off the year really hot and cool down. And I just think as a young player, schools want to see consistency. I think that shows maturity in a young player, and they look at all that type of stuff. So they're picky.
And I think a lot of these, for any parent that has kids looking to go scholarship route, whether it's D3, D1, doesn't matter what it is. I think, this is more of a question for you as well, but what are some of those key qualities that those schools are looking for, right? So consistency is a big one, no matter where you're going to play, like just being good every night. That doesn't mean points, just play your style, play your game, and just be as consistent as possible. But what are a couple other things that kind of stand out as that student athlete?
Well, one of the first questions I get every time is, besides what type of player is he, what are his grades like? How are his SATs? Is he an all university course credit student? Because you need to be all university course credit if you want to go D1. There's a lot of academic parts that come into it. I actually, you'd be surprised how much schools work with kids on helping them make sure that they're academically ready to step in and play D1.
Right.
Just because, when you're playing D1, like you're on the road every other weekend, you're leaving for a Friday night game, you're leaving Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Like it's tough. So they look at, your time management, everything, your off ice work habits, what type of kid are you, what type of family you come from. They look at everything. And then obviously when it comes to just being a player, I think at the college level, one of the first questions I get asked is his skating. I think skating's the biggest thing, obviously in today's game, but especially at the college level in the States.
Yeah.
You played it,
Yeah, I know. I think I joke all the time. I think it's like race horsing or horse racing.
Yeah.
It's open the gate, boom, five guys out.
Yep.
4 lines of 5 guys that could fly for the most part, right?
And college in the U.S. it's different hockey, too.
For sure.
They play a different style.
And I think, do you get a lot of questions on hockey IQ? Like, what's his hockey IQ? Like,
absolutely.
I think skating is a big thing. I think it's speed, how he thinks the game. But I think the hockey IQ piece is something that, for me now, is almost up there with those skills, right?
Absolutely,
can he think the game well? Does he know where to go? Is he smart? Is he cerebral? Can he see the ice well?
Besides skating, I think hockey IQ is right there. I think, they want to know, is he an intelligent player? Does he think the game the right way? Can he slow the game down? And just little things like that. Can he play in every situation? Is he a smart player that can play in every situation? And, I've had some kids as well, where schools were worried, he's a top 6 guy, but if he were to get bumped out of our top 6, will he be in our lineup? Right. Because they don't know if he can be a bottom 6 guy. So, I think just understanding the game and being a student of the game. They love guys that, eat, sleep, and breathe hockey. That's what they want. And, they're obviously, the academic side is what it is. You need to be, a good academic student if you want to play at the next level. And, just as well as I do, the ECAC conference, if you don't have the grades to get into an Ivy League school, you just crossed off 12 schools that we can't even talk to.
Right.
So I always tell these kids, especially as a young guy in high school, because everybody, from Southern Ontario, me including myself here, growing up through high school, we all wanted to play in the OHL,
for sure.
Take some classes off here and there. I don't need to study or whatever. But then if the O doesn't work out, you need to have those grades if you want to, turn to go college. And so, I just try to tell guys, it starts in the classroom and they look at that. If you're a great hockey player and you're a great student, they know that you put in the work. Yeah. And so all that stuff adds up.
Oh, for sure. I don't want to keep you too long. So last couple of things, but I want to touch really quickly on the academic side of it. Yep. So if I've got a young guy, he's grade 10 high school, going into grade 11, first of all, grade 9 through grade 12 have to be all university, classes, right? High school, university academic classes. On top of that, grade 9, but usually grade 10, 11 for sure, grade 11, need to start thinking about taking your SATs or your ACTs, right? Now, for those who don't know, it's standardized tests for the states. It kind of tells the states that you know how to spell your name and answer some questions or not. But it basically standardizes that, okay, he's okay or she's okay to be able to get into that, basically the clearinghouse. We'll talk about that in a sec. But what is a bottom kind of a minimum that a player needs to score on an SAT in order to even like be able to eligible for the crappiest university in the States?
Yeah, I think I think it all comes down to what your high school GPA ends up.
Because that'll kind of help offset it a little bit, right?
Yeah, it would. Yeah. So, like I try to tell a guy, like if you're a 75 average, you want to be above an 1120 on the SAT at a 1600.
What's a high end score? Like crazy, like top.
I know guys who have had like 15 at a 1600. That's obviously Ivy. And I've also had guys with like a 1050 that have committed D1.
Okay.
But, and then it's weird. I've had kids who were honor roll students in high school, but really struggled on the SAT. And I've had guys that kind of struggled or slacked off in high school, but they killed it on the SAT.
Yeah.
So it can definitely even things out. But if you want to go over the top and try to get into a really high, academic school like a Cornell, which has obviously got a great hockey program, you want to make sure that you're doing your work in high school and in the SAT. And I've got a little thing set up here at Oxford Learning Center in London where my guys can go and get SAT prep tutoring.
Which is smart, man.
Yeah.
It's not an easy test to take. It's all timed.
Yep. And you take it as many times as you want.
Yeah.
Keep upping your score. And, the only thing is trying to get your players to go back and take it again because it is a 5-hour exam.
Yeah,
pretty
But again, that's one of those things, man. If you want it bad enough, you're going to do it. You're going to put the work in. If you don't do well on it, you'll do it again. If you don't do well on it, you'll do it again. And for those who don't know, it's an English component and a math component, and you can flip. So let's say I did really well in my English the first time, ball my math. Second time I took it, I did really well in my math, ball my English. I can combine those two
take
scores.
The top highest scores,
which makes it a little bit easier sometimes on players who don't have to take it. It's not. You can kind of move them around a little bit, so they match up a little bit. And then let's say a kid does really well on his SATs. He's okay. Academics are okay. School commits to him.
Yep.
All right, sign here. We're good. You're not good because you have to still go through the NCAA clearinghouse, which is not anything crazy. But at the end of the day, there's one other little like the NCAA does not make it easy.
Hold your breath for like a 24-hour period.
Right. And they just overlook everything, right?
Yeah. They look at, they make, they put your transcripts through. So before we even get an offer, I get my players to sign up on the NCAA Eligibility Center. You go in there, you sign up, you send your SAT you send your transcripts in, you'll send your SAT scores in. You'll fill out, a little questionnaire about if you have an agent or an advisor and things like that. And, obviously you're not allowed to accept anything from an advisor. So I can't go out and buy my players twigs.
Right.
I can't buy my players anything, and I don't. I follow the NCAA rules to a T. I've actually even called into the NCAA before to ask them questions about this or that just to make sure.
Yeah. So once they submit basically their grades, their SAT score, that's about it, right?
Yeah, and then they'll get a NCAA number kicked back to them. So a school will say, hey, can I have this kid's NCAA number? We'll send it to them. They can type in his number and boom, all his stuff pops up. Score, SAT score, transcripts. Then they can send that through their admissions at school. Yeah. So, it's a process. You just try to have your players get everything done. As soon as we start working together, I want my guys getting that eligibility form
and being aware of it. And I think that's where like a lot of parents have no idea.
No.
So when they're going through this process, I've had parents come up to me and kids in grade 11.
Yep.
Like he really wants scholarship now.
Yeah.
Okay, but he's taking grade 9 basic classes and grade 10. Like now he's going to go back and do grade 9 and 10.
And the other thing too is they only go off of your core credits, your 16 core credits. So kids think, oh, well, I can get a 62 in math and I'll just get a 99 in phys ed and a 98 in music. They don't do that. They go off of all your math courses, all your English, your science, your social science.
So not your electives, all your core stuff.
Yeah, like your real courses. So there's no getting around it.
Yeah.
And, and that's what they go off of. And at the end of the day, that's what the whole SAT is off of as well, is the real stuff. So, I try to get my guys to take the SAT right away. Actually, I tell my guys, don't feel like you need to barricade yourself in a room for 6 months and study. Go and take the test. Because like you said, you can re-up those scores. For sure. And, I've had kids that were, 75 average. They go take the test blind. They get an 1150 and don't have to take it again.
Yeah.
So, it's not the funnest test. I've taken it 3 times just to continue to try to get the best score as possible. And, it's not fun, but you got to do it.
It's humbling.
Yeah, it is. Actually, it is.
Yeah.
By the time you get to about the 4th hour, you're like, hey, just get me out of here.
100%. You're just like checking boxes. Get me out of here for sure. Well, listen, buddy, I think this is super informative. And, this is always an area I think that all the parents ask me. And I think just like being a skills coach or a hockey coach or whatever it is, everyone thinks that they can do it.
Yeah.
Everyone's got an uncle that played hockey that, he's helped me out. And I think, okay, that's fine.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I think if you want to take that next step in your career and maybe mom and dad don't have the time to invest in it or just don't have the energy or don't know how to start or what to do, I think it's important to ask questions and go out. And I mean, obviously I get a ton of questions on this stuff. And I tell parents, like, I'm not an advisor, man. I will hook you up And I always tell them that I'll hook you up with an advisor for sure. I'll help answer questions here and there, but
Of course.
I'm not going to talk to a coach after a game about how you played, and unless I need it for my own, for what we're doing together or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, you need someone that's going to pound the pavement for you, call people, and get eyeballs watching you. And I think, I think the one thing that I like that you talked about a lot is we say this all the time in skills. If you're going to go meet with a skills coach and really work with a skills coach, I believe they should have a plan.
Absolutely.
There should be a plan in place on what they're working on, why they're doing it. For you, same thing. We're not going to go play in Oakville if you're only going to play 4 minutes a game. We're going to go play junior B or junior A tier 2 somewhere else where you can play 10, 20, 30 minutes a game, whatever it is. And then next year maybe, or whatever, right?
Absolutely.
To set ourselves up. So having a plan, I think, is huge.
Like you were just talking to Kyle out in the hall, this is a kid who, I think he only played 1 or 2 years of AAA his entire life. I got him out to Saskatchewan, obviously Notre Dame. It's a great program, highly scouted. And so I got him out there. He had a lot of junior A offers. We wanted to keep our doors open for the following year. So he's going down to Boston, playing junior A down in Boston. And then the following year of 2020, he's heading out to the BCHL. So, we just try to put guys in situations. Like I said, I had another kid who started off the year in junior A. The ice time necessarily wasn't there. He went back down to the GTHL, and now he's already signed to the Ottawa Junior Senators, who was just in the RBC Cup. So, you want to put these guys in situations where they're going to play and get opportunity. I think, Ryan McAllister is a great example of
for sure
what opportunity can do for a kid. And, I think, taking the time to find those right spots for the kids, I think, is so important.
Yeah. And I mean, every kid's different, so their path's going to be a little bit different. Right? I think a lot of parents get caught up that Johnny's playing AAA, Johnny's playing Junior A. I need to, my guy's got, no, your guy can play midget AAA again.
Yep, exactly.
Your guy can play Junior B or Junior C or wherever that fit is. His track might be different, but let's see where they all are in 5 years.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And I know Tommy works way harder than Johnny. Let's see where they end up in 5 years.
Yeah.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we're on the clock to get it done by the time we're 20. If we can get it done at 16, that's great.
Yeah,
Let's do it. But when I hear this a lot, and it's my biggest pet peeve. If I'm not committed by this time, I'm quitting hockey.
Yeah.
And I just tell guys, well, maybe you're not cut out for it then, because it's a process and you cannot rush the process. If it was up to me, all my guys would be committed. I'm not the one that offers the commits. I'm not the one that signs the junior A cards.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it comes down to, is it the right match? Does the GM like you? If you have to push your way onto a team, you're probably not going to play that much.
Yeah.
If you've put the feeler out there, they've done their homework on the player and came back and said, we want that kid here, then it's going to be a good fit.
Yeah.
So I just feel like, you got to stay patient. You got to buy into the process. And if you can do that, you're going to be completely fine.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome, buddy. Listen, man, thanks a lot for your time. This was great.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Wicked, buddy. All right.
Great. Thank you.
Good luck.